Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, brought to you by Campbell's new Chunky Spicy Soup. It's time to get fired up. By the way, we'll be trying some more soup today, so stay tuned. But make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. Please rate and review the program. I'm your host, William Liu. Big thanks to Samson Folk for helping co-host the last 2 days and the final co-host before Blake Murphy returns next week. I've already seen Blake Murphy's feet on Instagram, which was a strange thing to wake up to this morning, is Amit Mann, producer, co-host of the Raptors Show. What's going on, Amit?
Doing well, man. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for welcoming me, William, as Chris Boucher likes to say. William.
I was like, what is this voice? Yeah.
It's the Chris Boucher. That's how he likes to say it too. I was in the room when he called you out, but he was just like inviting you on the podcast. But that's how he said it. It was William.
Yeah, I think
William knew.
You know, I think the issue here is Super Bruiser Derek is out with sickness today. So unfortunately, he's not in the studio. But we do have a drop where essentially that exact clip of Chris saying, "My boy William." But it's tough. Chris Boucher will come up on this show, even though he didn't come up in the game last night. He will come up on this show because there's certainly an amount of curiosity about Chris. But
there's
listen,
a discourse.
there is a Chris Boucher discourse, and we will try to get to that. We're also going to get to, speaking of another Yahoo Sports Canada alum, CJ Miles. You want to have him on at 2:30. You guys had a pod, last year, Strictly Hoops. You guys get to continue that at 2:30. And then, of course, we asked for Twitter questions because this is what happens after the Raptors lose. This is what happens after the Raptors lose 139-98, as they did last night to the New Orleans Pelicans. Some stats on the loss. This is courtesy of Keeks from the other network, although shouts to Keeks for sitting in the booth last night. It was otherwise an empty booth in the 590 booth. So some stats on this 41-point loss. The Raptors lose by 40-plus at home. For the first time since 1996, they were playing in the Sky Dome at that time. 1996, they allowed 24 threes to the opponent. That is the most threes they have allowed in any game in franchise history to an opposing team. And speaking of which, Trey Murphy III made 10 threes, which is the most threes made by any Raptors opponent. Amit, man, what did you feel about last night's game where, again, they lost by the most that they've ever lost by at home since Sky Dome?
Sky Dome, yes. It should have been an indication when Trey Murphy checked in and he shot a 32-footer and hit it. That would be an indication of how things were going to go for him. Look, like the Raptors, they were undermanned, and it seemed like Darko, he was looking for, let's just try and, crowd the paint, make things hard on Zion, make things hard on BI, and let's see what they can do from the three-point line. Unfortunately, the Pelicans are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. I believe they're third on corner threes as well. And so Herb Jones, he was the guy who goes 4 or 5 from 3 just in the first quarter. Now, first off, credit to him, because at one point he was the liability in that Pelicans starting lineup from a three-point shooting perspective. Teams are going to just sag off of him. But he's shooting 42% this year, and he's up to 58% over the last, 10 games. So congrats to him. But after that, you just look at it, man. You got RJ, he's guarding Zion. Not great. Not a great idea. And then CJ in this pick and rolls with JV, with whoever the case is. They're just able to find so many advantages constantly. And between that, the Raptors decided they had to give up something. And it would have been nice maybe to see a bit more creativity on the defensive end. Because once you realize something's not working, maybe you try something else. However, it is what it is. And after that first little stint where the Raptors were okay, they were shooting threes. Gary hits 3 of them. It's pretty cool. Then they went cold, and the Pelicans did not at all.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What did the Raptors take away last night?
They didn't take away anything. No, they didn't. The goal was to take away the paint. That was their plan. But I think they underestimated Zion. And, at some point, maybe they tried some double big stuff. They didn't really do that. RJ had a hell of a time trying to compete with Zion. That's not easy, especially for anyone. But, Scotty Barnes would have been helpful in that case. Or even just Jakob Poeltl as a weak side defender, sometimes on ball, depending on the case. But they didn't really take away anything. And obviously, with any defense, you want to do that. And unfortunately for them, it just didn't go that way. They're very small right now, like extremely small, and we can expect that to probably be the case going forward. I don't see Yak or Scotty Barnes coming back anytime soon. But then, after that, I think this is an opportunity for Darko to get a little bit more experimentative with how can you incorporate some small ball lineups, some small players, and get them running around a little bit more, getting them to be positionally sound with their fundamentals and instincts. And that's kind of where things have to go now, because this could happen again as the Raptors are going to be heading on a road trip where they're going to face the Suns and the Nuggets, and those are two very, very good teams.
Yeah, this will happen quite a few times, including last time the Raptors played the Pelicans, because this is remarkably consistent. They lost by 40, or actually 39 last time to them. So
probably the time before that, it was again probably 30 points or something.
Well, Raptors, I mean, certainly it's a bad matchup, for sure. That's one thing. I think the reason I asked you that question is because I didn't think they had a grip on how they can handle Zion. I didn't think that Ingram was under control by any means. They threw a lot of extra bodies at him. He made some really good passes, and he scored whenever he wanted to. Herb Jones, as you mentioned, leading the league in three-point percentage since, the start of 2024, was left wide open in the corners all night. All right, Darko's stated defensive strategy coming into the season was, we're going to take away the paint, we're going to take away corner threes, live with the rest. So when you know what the supposed strategy is, or the general idea is, and then you see the execution of it, you can definitely see the lack thereof.
Yeah,
I think JV they actually did an okay job with.
Kelly did good.
JV they got away with slapping JV like whenever they wanted to. Like the referees were like, you know what, we feel bad for you guys. Like you're clearly you're gonna lose here on your home court. It's gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
But well, you know what? The one thing we'll give you is you could slap JV all you want. And I felt a little bad for JV because he was just getting hacked all night. Didn't get a couple calls. Still was a plus 21, by the way, and actually was moved to the second unit to start the second half with Larry Nance coming in. CJ McCollum didn't shoot the ball great, but he had wide open looks. And then their second unit came in and did whatever they wanted to. And I think, big part of this season, wins and losses, right? Wins and losses, or wins and lessons. And, we can just excuse the fact that they lose as so long as they're taking away things from the loss. You don't take away anything from a loss like that. Yeah. And that is, just strictly speaking, a wasted performance. And honestly, it was an uphill battle the entire way. But how is that not on the players? How is that not on the coaching? How is that not on management for putting together a group that looks like this? And I get it. They've gone into the season. They've pivoted 4 or 5 times. I was just reading Raptors at 7, the Substack by a friend of the program, Vivek Jacob. He talked about it early on. I thought it was a really good way of saying it. The Raptors have moved the goalposts this season 6 or 7 times. And I don't care how much you move the goalposts. There is under no circumstances is it okay to lose by 41 at home to the point where it was a pretty packed crowd last night. And it wasn't like one of those like 50-50 crowds like when the Warriors came or when Dallas came even. There was a lot of Mavs fans. Who knew? Lots of Mavs fans in Toronto. Obviously, those are Luka and Kyrie fans. That was a pretty universally Raptor crowd last night. Maybe a couple, Zion uniforms. You see it once here or there. But generally speaking, they were there to watch the Raptors. And it doesn't matter who is suiting up. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You cannot play like that. And that needs to be hammered in. Like, it can't just be like, oh, wins and lessons. Like, there's no lessons from that. Yeah. I'm happy that there were actually a couple fans who stuck around late in the game and booed them. I'm happy that there was chance of we want Boucher. Now, that might be a bit of a tongue-in-cheek. And honestly, shouts to Quessy, who was there from Raptors Twitter last night. He was, helping to lead some of those charges. But overall, I think when they say we want Boucher, I think they want to see what Boucher represents, which is a guy who will come in and play hard.
Sure.
You lose by 41 at home, and there's not a whisper about, hey, what did the coach do last night? What did the players do last night? That can't be it. And I get it. They're playing a much better team, but that's unacceptable under any circumstance, wins and lessons or no.
What was the reaction when they turned the ball over twice in 2 minutes on inbounds?
They inbounded straight to the other team.
Twice.
Yeah.
Jonte did it once. I believe RJ did it the other time.
Right.
Leading to buckets in one case. It's look, like you mentioned, like the moving the goalposts. I do wonder if the goalposts were in the same spot from the get-go, but they had to work through some of the roster complications, players who are going to be on the team now, who are not on the team any longer. And this was probably the team that they were looking to get. I think the players that they brought in so far.
Wait, this is the intended end product they wanted to get to. This right now.
This roster Closer to that, yeah. I think they wanted Kelly Olynyk. I think they like that he's a stretch five who can pass the ball. I think that RJ Barrett, his driving ability is important. Ochai Agbaji, I like him as a bench piece, but I think those two specifically, especially IQ as well, those three, Kelly, IQ, and RJ, those are people that I think they're looking at as long-term pieces within the next few seasons at the very least that can be built around Scotty Barnes. Now, obviously, not having Scotty is a problem, right? It's a huge problem.
Absolutely.
Like they are extremely,
I'm not sympathetic to the fact that they didn't have Scotty and Jakob.
Yeah. But I hear you with the effort, the attention to detail, the focus. That
Can we
is a
inbound
problem.
to our own team?
Yeah.
We start with literally plan A, right?
Yeah.
Can we, if someone's dribbling the ball up and there's somebody sneaking from behind, which last night Zion did that to Gradey, can some teammates be like, hey, watch your back?
Yes.
Somebody.
Yes.
Let the rookie know that a human shark, a land shark, Zion Williamson, is going to snatch him from behind like Jaws, take it the other way for a highlight dunk.
Back dunk there.
Yeah.
Right after.
It's great. It was great for the fans. At least people that got to see the Pelicans play well.
Yeah. I hear you. And I think this is coming out of the All-Star break, the idea was we want to see energy, we want to see focus on both ends. That's what Darko wanted.
Right.
This was a step back there. Now, we can look at, hey, the disadvantages, we don't have this, we don't have that. This is also, to your point, it's falling on Darko and the coaching staff, too, that if you don't have player X and player B, Scotty and Yak, then you have to be more innovative. And this is a wins and lessons seasons for the Darko and his coaching staff as well. Now, it's not an excuse, but a case like last night is where we're seeing that maybe there could have been a little more innovation, a little more creativity, and also just like getting off of a potential scheme that is obviously not working when you're seeing that your team is falling behind, like step by step by step. Sometimes a timeout just isn't going to do it.
Yeah, I think I tweeted last night. There weren't enough timeouts in the world for Darko to turn this game around. And look, I'm not saying it's entirely on him, but I think going into it, I think it was okay. You're wild short-handed. You're huge underdogs even at home. It's opportunity to get creative. Maybe I got too used to watching Nick Nurse teams or teams that scrapped and competed, and if they fought uphill because they were short a couple starters, well, there were other guys ready to step up a little bit, not to the same degree, but still step up, still perform, and also I can expect like something different, something really creative and wacky because you're going to be down, so give us something. Yeah. And I was like, this is a game where you probably have to play some two big lineups, probably have to play some zone, probably have to give up, honestly, maybe do a little bit of what the Warriors did was like, all right, we're going to leave one of these guys open.
Well, I think they did. That's why Herb Jones went 4 or 5.
Why would you leave the one guy that's leading the three-point percentage in the whole entire league in 2024?
Who else would they do?
Someone else.
CJ? BI? I don't know.
Honestly,
there really isn't an option. I mean, I'm not making excuses by any means, but I think the biggest problem is that they didn't adjust their strategies when they saw that 6 minutes into the game they're at 21 points and the Pelicans are at 21 points, and obviously the Raptors are going to keep up that pace, but the Pelicans can, and that's why they did. And these are the things that I think we need to see Darko and his coaching staff. They got to adjust and they got to make these moves. And I want to see, also I think last night was a case where we're seeing the identity crisis that this franchise is going through right now.
Okay.
I mean, years prior, we just knew there was a staple of effort, of intensity, of the details and knowing them with players like Kyle, Fred, Pascal, OG. And right now
they weren't inbounding the ball to the other team.
They weren't doing that
twice in a quarter.
No, sir. They would never do that. Okay. Right. And now with these guys, and I mean, I don't know, man, like the identity crisis is very real with this team. It's very, very real. And I think that they have to take these games down the stretch very seriously, despite the fact that they don't have Scotty and Yak, because these are moments. These are phases of a season where you can establish things going into next season. Look what the Orlando Magic did last season after the All-Star break, right? They went crazy. They didn't make the playoffs, but look where they are now. And I believe it was Cole Anthony said that last season it catapulted us. It made us believe that we can be this team if we just hunker down and bring that effort night in, night out. And also they found their identity, as I'm talking about. They knew that defensively they have to be great, and if they're not, then they're going to suffer. And so they're bringing that focus every single night. Yeah. And that's why they are where they are. The Raptors right now, they got a lot of soul searching. That's a terrible term, but it's kind of like that, especially within the front office too. They have to know what they want from these last few games. It can't just be, we're going to bring in some 10-day guys and we're going to see who fits right for next season. Like, you have to establish something right now.
Yeah, they're lost in the woods a little bit for sure. A couple notes of feedback from people who were at the game, like Steph last night. Was at the game last night. This is from Steph. How much longer will this torture go on for? Will we feel joy again? Now, look, it's a little dramatic. I get it. Even for me, I feel like that's a little dramatic. But at the same time, I do think that that's a very valid question. A lot of people are paying to go see the game. And maybe, you can accept that, okay, they might not win a lot of these close games or whatever, but just find a way to compete. Again, the fact that they were out of the game by the end of the first quarter, what do you want people to do other than chant for Boucher or even boo a little bit at the end of the game?
The spread was 9.5 going into the game, and I was like, that's going to be the spread after the first quarter. Yeah. I made some money last night. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, there you go. Another big question. So this is something that came out quite a few times. The "We Want Boucher" chants.
Yeah.
What did you make of those?
It's real. It's absolutely real.
What's real?
Yeah, and I think he should be playing, personally.
Okay.
Every player needs to be held accountable, right? We all need to be held accountable in our careers, yours, mine, whatever. We all need to answer to someone, and it can't just be that we want these guys to figure it out on the court. If there is someone that's going to bring you what you want and others aren't doing it, they should be playing, right? And again, this is building the culture that the Raptors are hopefully trying to find is we hustle, we focus, we play hard, we work hard, we don't step down to anybody. And Chris Boucher emulates a lot of that. Now, there are some things here and there that maybe you want him to do better, but at least he's going to bring the effort, right? And right now, the fact that we're questioning if that's there every single night in the NBA with the team this young, I think that is a problem. And I think that's also grounds for Chris Boucher to be on the floor right now. It's a lesson for everyone.
So, again, last night, you see the Raptors lose by 41. You see a lot of new guys come in, and we'll get to that in a second. But the only three players who didn't get into this game for the Raptors were Chris Boucher, Jalen McDaniels, which I don't think anyone was. No one's going to be chanting, "We want McDaniels."
No, we cool, man.
Yeah. And then Garrett Temple, who we understand his role on the team, right? If he came in the game, fine. Actually, I should put the last game against the Pelicans.
Yeah.
It was also a blow in that one. But in any case, you understand why Garrett didn't play. You understand that Jalen is a lost cause. Chris, I think for a lot of people, their question is, what did we see Chris do so wrong for this team that he can't play even in this kind of situation? It does lead to a lot of questions, and I don't have the exact answer for you, but if there's some sort of even agreement or if there's even some sort of conversations that have taken place where it's like you're out of the rotation and you're just not going to play in any circumstance. And I think it's not a one-off thing. The thing is, we didn't even get to see necessarily what he didn't do right, because game one of the season, going back to the home opener, lots of excitement. Home opener, Timberwolves are in town. Raptors actually win that game, which was pretty impressive when you think about it now. Timberwolves, number 1 seed.
Very different team.
Very different team for the Raptors, absolutely. But still, they win that game.
Yeah,
and one of the weird, curious things was McDaniels was in the rotation and Chris wasn't. And Darko talked about it. It's like, some nights he's going to get it, some nights he's not going to get it. It's been a lot of some nights he didn't get it. And you can say, of course, conceptually, they're going younger.
Yeah.
They're playing in a different style. And, I think that they definitely tried to move Chris at the deadline. If they had gotten things that they would value offered, they probably would have taken it. But in any case.
Do you think that's fair that they didn't move him considering where we are now?
I don't know about fair or not fair. I mean, you need two people to make a trade.
Yeah.
In any case, though, I just don't think he really got a chance to contribute towards this. And that's not to say that he comes in and he dominates every single time. Last time he came in a couple losses ago, and it was like, yeah, okay, he didn't really play well in that one either. But having said that, though, it just feels like everyone's gotten a turn except for him. So I understand the chance, for sure. And I understand why people not only want Chris, but want what Chris represents and embodies. But would it have changed the game last night? Probably not, but I guess you could throw him a bone. Last time he played against the Pelicans, by the way, again, 40-point loss, that one as well. Yep. Chris came in and actually did quite a bit. 10 points in the fourth quarter. Now, did it change the game? No. But at least he played better than, 10 guys who wore a Raptors uniform last night.
And we're all just trying to hypothesize what the problem is. But in terms of play style, right? Do you see a fit for Chris Boucher on this team? Because if we're talking a system where it's a lot of transition, it's a lot of cutting, a lot of driving, a lot of off-ball movement, Chris can do that kind of stuff. But there are also limitations with, screen navigation and, being able to get around screens in general, right?
So because Chris can't get around a screen, he's not going to get minutes over Mohamedou Gueye?
That was a puzzling one, considering Mohamedou Gueye is Chris 2.0.
You know what I mean? If I were Chris, and I'm hearing this from the coach, I'd be like, word? All right.
Yeah. And I hear you. That's
all.
absolutely true.
That's
Like
all.
I don't think it's fair either. We're talking play style, right?
I'm just curious.
And I guess the incentive to play Chris Boucher over Mohamedou Gueye isn't really there because you could view Mohamedou Gueye as a cheaper Chris Boucher.
Yeah.
Right. So you like that option. That's really nice. But right now, Chris, probably they could say that maybe it's not worth putting those minutes towards him when maybe we could take a look at someone else. And also,
I don't know. We're playing guys older than him and Kelly.
But he's a fit.
He's a fit. He's not. Listen, every condition is very convenient towards never playing Chris. But
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about last night's game all that much. Honestly, the only good thing to come out of last night's game is I got to sit with some New Orleans fans for a little bit in the third quarter.
Nice.
And yeah, just chatting, talking a little bit about sort of, what they do. And they traveled quite a bit to go see the team sometimes. And so then we got to talking about New Orleans a little bit and got me thinking about gumbo, of course, one of the most classic things. And that leads us to another segment where we are going to be eating some soup. That's right. The Pelicans beat us so bad. New Orleans beat us so bad. We're going to eat some gumbo on air. So I'm going to go retrieve it for the second, Amit. But let me know what your favorite thing is about gumbo first off.
Well, I love the combination of flavors. I love the fact that it has some vegetables. It has some meat in there. It has some kick to it, depending on how you make it. I think that's really important. You need a lot of variety in flavors. You need some crunch. You need some softness to it. And the gumbo, when made properly, and I think Chunky Soup is going to nail it here, it can be exactly what we need. So here we go.
Been warned. It's quite hot.
Yep. So we got some rice in here. We got some sausage.
All right.
I see some chicken as well.
That's what happens when the
Lots of
Raptors
peppers.
lose to the Pelicans, man. Honestly, every time the Raptors lose to the Pelicans and I get some gumbo, I think I'm actually pretty okay with this. So
Yeah, we adopt the city's food.
yeah, honestly, so I'm getting rice in here, the sausage, getting tomatoes. Honestly, this is great. This is great.
It's really
I'm gonna
good.
have a little bit of this right now.
How do you feel about the kick? Is there a kick to you?
Honestly, it's a slight kick, but I wouldn't describe this as spicy. It's not quite spicy for me, but it might be spicy to other people. I see some chicken in here. Wow, okay. This is generous. See, this is the thing. We had this discussion a couple shows ago. Me and Blake were talking about it. Do you eat soup or do you drink soup?
You eat soup.
This is a eat soup type of day.
Yeah.
Like it's more.
And I think soup should always be that way, personally.
Really?
It should always be an eating kind of thing, not if it's soupy. If it's really watery, then I think you don't have enough stuff in it. Stuff being, potatoes, vegetables, whatever you want. Celery. Celery is a huge component of a good soup, and they got some in here. Very good.
All right. Wow, this actually made me feel a little bit better about the last night. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Food
this
warms
was
the
nice.
heart. Food warms the heart.
Man, I'm gonna finish the rest of this during the break because we can't do this all segment. Although I would love to. Shouts to Chunky for this. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Now that I'm in a slightly better mood, I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions about this game, and then we're gonna go break.
Okay.
Number 1, I want you to give me 3 reasons as to why we should keep watching the Raptors the last 20 games.
Okay. Well, we're talking about building for the future, right? So real quick, because we got CJ.
It's like the Eglinton RLT. 40 points.
Which is actually ready now.
Is it? I don't know.
I believe so.
My parents live very close to Eglinton over on Martin Grove, and it took me quite a while to get home.
I was on the Allen, right? And I had a lot of time to observe things because, when you're on the Allen, you're not going anywhere. And I thought it was ready, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways,
right.
IQ. I want to see him hunt his 3-point shots more.
Yep.
I think that's really important. We saw him do that a little bit last night in transition. I love when he's sprinting towards off ball and taking handoffs with who knows? Maybe a Chris Boucher. Maybe it's a Scotty Barnes. Maybe it's a
It's not
Jakob
going to be
Poeltl.
Chris
It's
Boucher.
not going to be Chris Boucher.
It's not going to be Scotty Barnes either. He's out for the year. Yeah.
Whoever it's going to be down the season
Or
down
Jakob.
the stretch. Jonte Porter, I guess.
It'll be
Porter.
Jonte. Yeah, it'll be Jonte.
Kelly.
Jonte's going to handle it.
It's really important that he develops that skill because that is a unique skill, and you need unique skills to win in the NBA. You need players that give some sort of versatility, some sort of pop that other teams don't have. So that's one.
I'm going to keep eating soup as you keep telling me these reasons.
Please,
Yeah,
please,
go ahead.
please. I'm going to spice it up here. Gradey Dick, off-ball screening. I think it's huge that he develops that part of his game, and the Raptors have to incorporate that into his game. Overall, the players that screen off ball the most in the NBA, it's Klay Thompson, it's Steph Curry, it's Lauri Markkanen, it's Bogey in Atlanta. Players like this, what do they all have in common? They're all great shooters, movement shooters. You need this versatility with your shooting, and I think Gradey, especially after his conditioning stint, it seems like he's kind of found something, what it is. Hopefully CJ can give us an idea, but that is something that confuses defense. It gets them on their heels, and again, with the shooting ability, he needs to have that in his game, and I want to see it. Last thing, I mean, is it exciting or not? I don't know, but I need goes to our conversation. I got to see Darko help this team find an identity.
Okay.
And I think that's really important. That goes into night in, night out hustle. It goes away from just giving the chain to a scout who did a really good scouting report. Right? That's cool. That's great. It's great for the familia side of this team. But we also got to see it on the court. And if they're able to establish an energy, a hustle, a motivation, despite the fact that this is something of a lost season, at least in terms of the standings.
Oh, it's
that
a
would
lost
be
season,
awesome.
man.
Yeah. In terms of the standings, but this is what I'm talking about, man. Like you can establish these things going into next season if you with these core players that are going to be here, right? They're not going anywhere. You've already established that these are the guys. Get them to find the groove that the Raptors are supposed to play with.
Yeah. No, for sure. I don't think it's a unique challenge for a franchise. Not a unique challenge for Darko either. Lots of teams have gone through something similar. His former team right now in the Memphis Grizzlies are going through something similar, right? You have seasons where because of injuries, because of in-season trades, because of circumstances that come up, things happen and your year gets derailed, right? Of course, you still need to find value and be able to sort of find just like togetherness and identity. What I like about the Grizzlies this year, they found a couple other new contributors. They still maintain the fact that they play defense. Do they play offense well? No. They don't have the talent to play offense well. But even when the Grizzlies came to town, they beat the Raptors.
And they beat the Bucks too, the Grizzlies.
Yeah, right? So
a few of those staple wins, I want to see that during the stretch.
Anyway, I think you can tank. You can do whatever you need. You can develop. You can call it whatever you want. There's just no sugarcoating a 41-point loss.
No.
Unless you want to have some Chucky soup, which was actually quite good. But that is not sugarcoating. Real quickly, Tankathon watch. Raptors are currently 7th, as in 7th worst in the league in standings. That gives them a 32% chance to move up into the top 6. So that's a 32% chance of keeping their pick because it's only top 6 protected for this year and beyond.
Sure.
So if they stay in the current position right now in the standings, they have a 32% chance of actually reaping a reward out of this current season. Memphis, the aforementioned Memphis, that's the team they're trying to catch, or I guess in this case, fall behind.
Yep.
They're 2 games behind the Raptors for 6. If the Raptors were in the 6th worth position, they would have a 46% chance to keep their pick. So still not even 50-50. And then if they somehow managed in the last 20 games here to fall behind Portland, who are 5 games below the Raptors, and the Raptors end up being the 5th worst team in the NBA, they have a 64% chance of keeping the pick. So, it's really tough. My last question to you is: how many more games would you think the Raptors would win in the last 20 games?
Without looking at the schedule, probably should have looked at it before we did this.
Oh, good, man. That's what we do in this program.
I would say road trips on the way. It's not a great schedule. I think they're in the
still
middle.
playing Detroit? They got Detroit coming up?
Yeah, that's actually not even a good thing. Like, Detroit's actually, they hustle. Like, they're kind of finding their own groove, too. It's in Detroit style, but, it's not, they're still not a good team, but considering where the Raptors are right now, it would be great if I saw them win 5-7. I think that'd be awesome.
5-7.
All things considered. Obviously, I would like to see more wins, but I think that would be, without looking at what's going on here, that would be really cool. And in terms of Tankathon, we could use some 2021 magic, obviously.
We could use a little bit of that for sure.
That could be useful because it's going to be pretty hard for them to actually go all the way down, too. There are teams that are taking a lot better, too.
You can't guarantee me Portland's going to win 5 more games in the last 20 games of the season.
No, man.
And you need to fall 5 games below Portland.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difficult thing. And that's why, there's all this talk now about, like, or should we convey the pick this year? I know we got asked that a couple times. Should we convey the pick this year and then we control our draft again? Or should we get it this year and then probably try to tank next year as well? Honestly, do you really want to see a 2-year tank? Because that's essentially what you need to do to keep the pick. You definitely don't want to convey it next year when the draft is quite strong.
Yeah. Okay,
just before coming on here, I saw Draft Express post a video of a player who was going to Duke, and I forgot his name, but I did remember that he has a 9'8" wingspan. A 9'8" wingspan. He's 7'2".
Who is he?
He shoots the 3. He blocks shots. You will see him in Duke in a couple years. Those are the type of players. Cooper Flagg's in that draft. There's a couple of players in that draft that you really want to keep it for. This year, maybe not so much. But the thing is, it's almost out of their hands to disagree because they've already given up the pick and it's such low protection. And we've gone over this a million times, so you don't have to do it all the time. But yeah, at best, the Raptors have like about a 50-50 chance, even if they lose the next 20 games in a row.
Yeah.
Which after last night, what I saw,
Possible.
In any case, that's not going to happen. But I think that even if they did that, it's still basically 50-50. So I think that's where you're in this position where you're stuck actually rooting and just enjoying and just trying to take whatever you can from the young guys, showing you what they can do going forward. Because the last thing you want to do is repeat this season, because this is a lost season. And I think last night's game is just one of the many reminders of that. But we're going to take a break here. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, brought to you by Campbell's new Chunky Spice Soup. When we come back, let's bring in CJ Miles, former Raptor from a happier time.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Lou. Continue to be joined by co-host Amit Mann. And joining us for segment 2, as promised, a Raptor from a happier age, CJ Miles, 16-year NBA vet, former Raptor, of course, rapper, of course. CJ, are you in the studio right now? Like, where is this, man? You look, this is a cool setting behind you.
Yeah, this is where I record at home. Yeah, this is where I've been doing everything since I retired, basically. That's where I did the podcast at with Amit. That's where I do everything at.
Yeah. Amit, you said you knew where this was.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't turn my mic on. Still learning the ropes here. I was saying that you've decked out the space a little bit more since we were doing our Strictly Hoops podcast that unfortunately came to an end. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that unfortunately came to an end. Out of nowhere, too, kind of. But
you're telling me, bro. You're telling me.
Yeah, we were discussing the show that week. But yeah, just because I started doing the live performances of the songs in here, so I wanted to give it more character in the room and, just started adding stuff.
So, bro, tell me something. I mean, we talked a lot about Gradey Dick during our podcast with Strictly Hoops. And first off, you were extremely complimentary of him from the get-go. You really liked what you were seeing from him out of Kansas and kind of his effort, his overall game, and also his shooting, of course. But do you know what happens in a conditioning stint? Because whatever happened has kind of rejuvenated his game and sort of made it seem like that he's ready to be like NBA ready and contribute right now.
Yeah. I mean, he just played. Right? Like, they just prepare you for what it's kind of like they don't want to just throw you into it with no preparation as far as like your body and your conditioning and everything, right? Like, that's the biggest thing. I think that's what they do. Teams do. They send guys to the G so they can play games. It's only so many practices we can do and so many drills we can do, so many one-on-ones and two-on-twos that don't substitute for you getting hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did see for your year, you ended up playing with a lot of young guys. And I think, you know what, CJ, all cards on the table, I think emotions are a little high after you lose by 41. Like we're a little burnt here in Toronto right now. We're, like it's tough. Like they haven't lost by 41 at home since they were playing at Skydome. Like we talking like even before Vince Carter. This is like Damon Stoudemire era, right? And one of the questions for someone is Chris Phillips. They asked, why was the bench mob so successful? Young guys being able to buy in and play their roles. Was it coaching? Was it personality? Was it fit? Because we're also entering an era now where the Raptors have a lot of young guys. A lot of them come off the bench. Why can't they capture the same magic as you guys did that one year?
I mean, it's obviously different personalities, different coaching, different things, right? But we said it before it was true, right? Before it was seen physically. We said we were the best bench in the league from the jump. That was the goal that we set, and then after we set the goal, we believed it. That's what we called it. Like, we didn't wait for anybody else to tell us we were the best bench in the league. We started the season being that. Like, I think it's a belief and a buying in, as you will. Like, when we talk about what they're trying to get people to do, like, you got to walk as if it's true.
Yeah, I think that's where the personality spark comes in, right? Because I do wonder, like, for this group right now, like, so they have essentially they've extended Kelly, and Kelly in a way almost reminds me of like what you did for that second unit, which was, you know what, the game gets tough, give it to Kelly, give it to Vet, get him a shot in a way that you know where to go, and also he's also directing guys and getting the guys in the right positions. I think before that, Thad Young kind of played a similar role for that second unit before they moved on from him. What was that role like when you got a lot of young guys and you're the one guy everyone's looking to sort of give them a little bit of guidance and a little bit of organization when games get tough?
I say this all the time. I don't know why my camera keeps doing that, but those guys those guys were who they were. Like I didn't turn them into anything. I just showed them confidence, right? Like I didn't give them game. I didn't give them moves. I didn't give them any of the things that they had. I just showed them a person who believed in what we were doing and when to do it and how to do it, right? Like, that was it. I yelled at them to shoot the ball. I yelled at them to make plays. Like, I didn't tell them how to. Just told them to. Do it the way you do it. I don't care how you do it. Just do it. And that's how we figured it out.
All right. So then, considering that, did you find something different with that group of players? Because we're seeing where Yak, Pascal, Fred, everyone, right? Like where everyone is now, and they're all extremely successful, right? And so was something different about that mold of players, that core, that stands out to you, considering where we are now?
Like, I know those guys, so I know what those guys wanted, right? Like, I knew what those guys wanted, so I was able to give them what they needed. Like, I don't know these guys that are playing on this thing, but I think as a vet, that's the way you got to look at it. Like, talk to those guys, understand what they want, what kind of player you want. You want to win games, you want to do this, what do you want? So now I can talk to you right. Like, I can know what to expect and what to get out of this and how to get everything we can get out of this. And that's what I mean by that's the difference from what I saw in those guys. Those guys were very clear about what they wanted and who they wanted to be. I don't know these guys, but that's the one that I can say. The guys that are there now, I don't personally, but I know if something's going to change, you need to tell me. I'm going to ask you, what do you want? So we can figure this out. And that's what the coaches are asking. That's what when you go through what they're going through, we ask you, like, this is what we want. What do you want? Do you want to win? This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And if it don't match, then somebody got to go.
So, I mean, talk us through locker room dynamics in that way, right? Like, is that up to the vet to come to the young guys to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you wait for them to come to you? I know back then, of course, Kyle and DeMar were established leaders. Like, everyone respected that this is their team. They're the all-stars. You know, whatever they say goes. But also at the same time, you know, just talk us through how those dynamics work. Because I think when you hear a lot of former players talk about it, there's a generational gap. And I'm always wondering what that means and what that is.
I personally don't think there's a generational gap as far as like things that guys are into and language and the way they go about things. But the way those guys told me, I didn't have to go sit them down at dinner. They told me when I got to the gym, they were already there. They were working. They told me by their actions. It wasn't words. So I didn't have to. That's why we messed, because when they got to the gym, I was there.
Damn.
I was there after the practice and shot with them. We did everything together as far as work goes. That's what that was. It wasn't, I did not have to ask them verbally.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to ask Freddie who he wanted to be. I didn't have to ask Pascal. Yeah, I didn't have to ask them verbally. They told me every day.
I miss those guys.
Yeah, we all miss those guys, man. But, you know, time moves on, you know? Okay.
CJ, so that's on the player side of things, but we're talking the Toronto Raptors now, and different coach, different philosophy, different style, all that kind of stuff. How do NBA teams nurture player development? What are things that, as a player at your side, you told me stories about your time with Utah, Derek Fisher pounding the ball on the court, and when you're going in there on an off day, and that was like an example of what you need to do yourself. But how does an NBA team help players reach their potential? Or is it truly just on players to put the work in and be there before the other ones?
There's a piece to both sides. I think the players got to show the initiative, right? They got to show the team that what they see in them is there, and they want to realize that, right? Like the potential, because everybody's got it when they come in the league. No matter what, everybody's got potential to be something. Somebody saw something in you. You got to show us that you want to bring that out also. And as a team, you gotta continue to put them in positions to showcase the things that help the team, right? You got to figure out how to work your system around what you have and not what you want. Like, I think, or go get what you want. Don't put guys in situations and expect them to be what they're not. That is basketball, period. Like, that's not even just that the Raptors or what they got. That's period with a coaching staff. You're not going to win that way. If you want a team full of shooters and you got a guy that can't shoot, don't put him in the corner. Right? Like, and then be mad that he's not making shots in the corner. Like, this is like, now he's got to work. And if he wants to stay on the floor, he'll continue to get better and he'll make shots at some point. But there's a meeting in the middle also.
Yeah. I think you're seeing a little bit of that maybe this year. with the group and how it's been operated. I guess my question to you in general is, it feels like the Raptors for a long time had like a defense first identity, right? The year that you guys, were really, really good, winning 59 games, the year afterwards when they won the championship, it's because you guys were really good on defense. Like you guys could score, no doubt, but ultimately it came down to defense. And I feel like today's league, there's a lot of conversations, even the league was discussing like, maybe we got to change a couple rules so that defense can come back in the game. Adam Silver was so salty after that All-Star game, too. He was like, congratulations on scoring 211 points, man. Here's a trophy. Thanks for ruining the All-Star game. But, like, it feels like this year the Raptors shifted towards, you know what? We actually really need to build around our offense. Our offense is really giving an issue. We need to bring more shooters in. We need to go smaller, which typically means you're going to be worse on defense. I guess my question to you is twofold. Number one, can you still play defense in the league? Can you still build defense first in the league? And number two, can you turn guys who are not defense first players into better players who I guess play defense? Because, yeah.
100%. So, one, let's not take away anything from how good offensive players have become.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Fair.
Like, they know the rules. The skill set 1 through 15 is as high as it's ever been in basketball.
That's so important. That it's very different than it was, back in the day, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Even in 2017, it's different, right? Like from there to now, right? So let's not take away that. And the rules, like we talked about before, there are rules that benefit the offensive player. But good defensive teams are not 5 lockdown defender great. It's just effort. It's literally just knowing what we're doing. That's what good defensive teams are. They know we're sending this guy left, him baseline, where the double teams come in. They talk, they communicate. You have to talk because talking makes guys accountable. I can't say I'm somewhere I'm not. So, therefore, us talking the whole time, I have to be there. I can't tell you I'm on the nail and not be there. Because everybody knows who was supposed to be there because I was saying I was there. So now now the fingers don't get pointed because we know.
So let's work backwards then. Yeah. Let's work backwards. So a defensive breakdown happens in a random third quarter, right? No one's at the nail. You double, and there's no talking about, helping the low man or whatever the case is. What's the trickle effect from a coaching staff to the player? Is it in the film room and then you go into individual meetings, or like how does that done? I'm sure it's different on every single team, but at the same time, I think that's where accountability happens. And we're talking about giving people opportunity, which is so important. But I'm finding that right now there is a lack of accountability sometimes, where you're not being have your foot put to the fire, and sometimes that's what you need to show the effort that's required to win games and win possessions.
Yeah, it goes to the film room. I think as a coach, I got to, like, we're not gonna hide it, right? We're gonna look at this as a whole, so you can see where you let your brothers down at, and your brother can see where they let you down at. Because nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to, like, you can't, we're not going to hide. Like, I don't think you should. I don't think we should tiptoe around it. And we also got to know, that nobody's going to shoot 100% on that end. We got to know our personnel. We got to know that there's going to be some guys that are going to get a little bit more leeway because that 2 points he gave up, he might average 30. So that's a different thing, right? Like, you got to know who you are, where you are on your team, and what gets you minutes also, what you provide. Because sometimes it is going to outweigh. Like, I'm not going to, if Pascal plays, if I got Pascal on my team, just to bring up a name, and he's going to play 39 minutes, and he's going to be my leading scorer, and I'm going to have him in my ISO, pick and rolls on this stuff, him missing an assignment from fatigue, I'm not going to blow my gasket.
Sure.
But the young guy who's in there for only effort and plays 8 minutes, he has to gas out.
Yeah.
He has to know, because the only way I earn trust in him is I know that he knows. Like, I know Pascal knows. There's just some more things on his plate. And sometimes he's not going to be able to get to it. And that's just the reality of it in the game.
Yeah, and I think Pascal was always so interesting in that front because he used to be that guy. As a rookie, he was 100%. That guy. 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. They used to start him, but he would play the first 5 minutes, come out, first 5 minutes of the third quarter, come out. That's it.
Yeah.
But in those 10 minutes, he was sprinting. You know what? Raptors got a rebound. Kyle's got it. Pascal's on the other side of the floor, ready for that touchdown pass. And I think that's what gives you the credibility later on when you grow into the next career too, on the next phase. And he's obviously been to many different phases where it's like now you understand where everyone else should be when they're young and they come in a little bit too. But, you know, speaking of young and coming in, last night we saw JV come in, and that was actually JV's first win at Scotiabank Arena since he got traded back in the day. I mean, the Pelicans have beaten the Raptors, but they were in Tampa, et cetera, et cetera. He missed a couple games. But it was interesting. He made 2 threes, and I want to ask you, so this JV3 thing, I mean, I don't know how much you saw him working on it before in practice and stuff like that. Used to be a thing on the broadcast all the time. They used to say JV with that little JV summer 3. You know, it's almost like a joke almost when he would make one.
Death tax. What is it? Death and tax. What was the saying?
Yeah, death taxes and JV3s.
JV3s.
Yeah, and of course he got that lethal pump fake too, which I don't know. He doesn't even do much on the pump fake, but guys fell for it.
It's so crazy.
I'm just curious, like, was he banging threes like that when you were teammates with him? Because he knocked down 2 of 2 last night.
He was working on them.
Okay,
yeah, he was working on them. He shot some when I was there. Like he wasn't shooting them like that.
Yeah.
Like obviously, but he was working on them, and I think that's just what players do. Like you just prepare yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be times, especially on your nights, you got it going a little bit, and you're trailing, and they're not guarding it, and like you feeling good. You should be able to take that shot, and that way we can be able to get into the offense we want to get into because people can't play us a certain way. I don't need you to shoot 5 of them, but
honestly, in today's league, JV, the percentage that he shoots, I mean, if he shot 5, no one even bat an eye, you know?
Yeah, but the percentage has to stay the same.
You're right. You're right.
I remember talking to him in his 2017-18 year, and that's when his three-point shooting was slowly emerging, right? And he shot 40% that year on 1 attempt. Now, he's never been more than 2.1, but he's always been around, 34, 35, 36%. And I'm talking to him about it. Yeah, it's good.
Solid, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And at the time, Pascal Siakam's in the background. He's just like, JV's the best three-point shooter on the Raptors, on the team. And JV's just like, well, I try my best and everything.
Yeah, we gotta talk about old day because the current days they're struggling a little bit. CJ, this is a wild question I gotta ask you, but we have you here. We're all friendly here. You know what? I don't want to go back to LeBronto, but I do remember in one of those games, I think Coach Casey went small, and I think he infamously put you on and Kevin Love. Talk to me about that.
That was a good stretch right there, boy.
Listen. This is so far in the past, but that's all I gotta ask you about it. What was going through your mind when that happened?
Nothing.
Like you're like it's cool.
I don't. That's all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was just what it was. Like that's. But I had been that guy before I got to Toronto. I had been the guy who was like, look, ask CJ to do it. Like I had been that guy, right? Like so, like, and we trying things, right? We looking for space. We like it's just I'm in, right? Like if I say I'm in, you can't ask me to do something and I say no.
Right.
That means I'm not in. So like I'm in. We trying to win. If you think this is the best way to go about this right now, you're gonna get all I got. That's my job as a player. I gotta trust the coach, and he gotta trust me.
I respect that, man.
Hell yeah.
That's a competitor right there. There's no offense.
We need that, man.
That was also a mismatch, Like Kevin Love was at that time too. Like, man.
Yeah, he was still Kevin Love too.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it was I can talk about it. It was not an easy few minutes. It was not an easy run, right? But it was what I had to do. I wrestled with him, and a couple of times I just fouled him just to let him know I was going. You know what I mean? Just to let him know I was there, right? Like let him know it wasn't just going to be no rollover. But like, the only bad part is that you got to let me take advantage of him. On the other end.
That's right.
Like that was the only thing that kind of like got me in some of those situations when I had to play small, even before Toronto. It's like, let me take advantage of my strengths. Like don't just let him beat me up and then make me wait in the corner for somebody to throw it to me. I want to get my lick back.
Appreciate you. Yeah. No, honestly, man. Salute to you. That was a tough time, but I mean, I get it though. You know what I mean? They were in a tough position. But CJ,
it ain't tough. That's basketball, man.
Yeah,
you counter exactly.
That's the competitor in
way
CJ.
tougher things than fighting Kevin Love on the post in the world.
For sure. Yo, CJ, I appreciate you. Thanks for your time, man. You always making time for us, making time for Amit as well.
My guy.
We got to go to a break. Live radio is not like podcast, man. We got to break at specific times. So
you got to do what you got to do.
We got to call you at a different time. But we're going to take that break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, brought to you by Campbell's New Chunky Spicy Soup. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, William Blue. Continue to be joined by fill-in co-host, Amit Mann. We are going to take some Twitter questions, but first I've got to say thank you to CJ Miles, friend of the program. Well, it's like doing a pod all the time with CJ, man.
Amazing. You learn so much about basketball from someone like him. And I went into it thinking that I was going to learn more about the X's and O's, and I did. But I think you learn more about what it's like to be a player. Off court, on court, the kind of things that go into a meeting with a coach, a group meeting within a team, what kind of dynamics contribute to winning, and also the other side of things where the kind of culture that you have that can contribute to a lot of losing. Like, are players bought into a plan along with the team, and are they bought into the coach? Are they bought into each other? Are they willing to take a step back for someone else? These kinds of things are kind of what the podcast became, and forever grateful. I mean, being able to say that I hosted a podcast with an NBA player, that's a bucket list thing.
Absolutely, man.
No different than you and Dennis.
Yeah, you're right, actually. So one thing you were actually going to get to, and we ran out of time, unfortunately, but there was one thing you were going to ask CJ about because he had a hot take about Gradey.
Yeah, man. First time him and I talked about Gradey, I asked him, like, what's the peak version of him when it all comes down to it? He was just out of Kansas at the point, and he said that he could be, again, we're talking like peaks, right? He could be a peak Gordon Hayward. Now, a peak Gordon Hayward, that was in probably 2016, 2017, the final season before he was traded to the Celtics.
Yeah.
He averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists on 40% from three, and nearly 50% from the field. So very different players, of course, right? Like, you could probably say that, Gordon was more athletic, a better dribbler, but they both have terrific instincts, both have great fundamentals, both see the game and read the game extremely well. Gradey is probably a better shooter. The height, I believe, isn't that different either, but I think that's a pretty great comp, or at least something for Gradey to strive for, because if he's able to harness a driving game, like, his shooting gravity is always going to be there. That's always going to open up things for him. But if he's able to get downhill and create off the bounce, that's going to be where he becomes a really special player.
Yeah, so for the context there, they were teammates back in Utah for the first 2 years. CJ was in Utah when Gordon was drafted, obviously, to Utah. And, I think, look, putting aside the fact that they're both white, which I think that comes up quite a lot in these player comparisons, let's be completely honest about it. I think the things with Gordon is, like, he can handle it. He was more athletic than Gradey is.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of his career, he got a lot stronger. Like, when you see Gordon Hayward now, too, like, I would say he's jacked, but, like, he's noticeably much bigger than what he was when he first came in the league. That's natural. That's something that I think, Gradey will go through that process.
He became a man.
Basically, yeah. One from Team Smooth to Team Style. Do you know what I mean? And
there we go.
Yeah. So for him, like, that'll come. But I think the ball handling, I think that's the question. And I think that Gordon.
Yeah, that's huge.
Gordon Hayward was quite nice, man. All-Star game one time as well.
In that year,
made the max.
Yeah.
Eventually. So, if that's the best case outcome, I would love to see that. But I do think that, like, I think there's more off-ball skills, and I think, largely speaking, Grady's gonna be more of an off-ball player than Gordon was. But I don't want to put a ceiling on it. Last night, 2 points. Another part of why last night was so upsetting to watch was, like, we've been banking at least Gradey, and he's been playing well, and every time he comes into the game, he would do well. And 1 of 7 last night, and it was like, damn.
Yeah, putting the rundown that I was going to ask CJ about, what contributes to his hot play of recently, and at least in 2024, and then also having to put in the disclaimer that although he didn't shoot very well last night, unfortunately. It happens, man. It happens.
He had a really good stretch of consistency, and now we hope to move into the next stretch of consistency. But anyway, for us, I was looking at our rundown for today, and I was like, it's quite light. It's time to ask for help. So I put the bat signal out. We're taking questions on today's episode of the Raptors Show. We need this, LMAO. Yeah, the we need this was supposed to be read in the Matt Devlin. We need this. It was like, it's usually when the Raptors are down 12 and there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
And, like, Patrick Patterson's wide open for 3, and the ball swings to him.
And it doesn't go in.
And it goes, we need this. And,
Clank.
In any case, we needed this. So I appreciate all the questions that were sent in. We really did absolutely need this. So
tomorrow's show is busier.
Tomorrow's show is busier. We have more guests. But I think most importantly, like, today is just like, how many times do we want to harp on the fact that they lost by a blowout last night? So, as always, we got a ton of questions. Broken down a little bit. We got Raptors questions. We got, just general basketball questions, maybe not Raptors specific. We have questions about the show, and then we have assorted, miscellaneous, loosies, whatever you want to call these things. So, Amit, where do you want to go first?
Who's more likely to start next season, Gradey, Gary, or Oche? That's fun from Rory.
This is Raptor questions. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think who's most likely to start next season? That's a good question. Wow.
It's not Oche. It shouldn't be, at least.
Why not? Why do you say that?
Because he's a shooting guard, and the other two players I would think are better options. I think. I don't think Oche is going to be able to be a small forward. He's just like, he's got some great wingspan, like 6'9", I believe, but he's 6'5".
Okay.
Doesn't have the weight necessarily, and I think they still need like a 3-and-D, like a true 3-and-D player. But I don't think. I mean, like, hey, prove me wrong, right? But
Well, I
I
mean,
don't think he's right there.
I'm assuming that there aren't like super major moves in the offseason, which honestly there may be, there might not be, who knows. But we have, obviously, Quickley is going to be re-signed. He's going to be at point. Andre is going to be retained. He's small forward. Scotty's going to be 4 in this case. You know, the one guarantee is Scotty Barnes is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then Jakob Poeltl most likely is not going anywhere as well. He's playing center. So that makes, you just need a shooting guard. So essentially, which of those 3 guys would you want to start a shooting guard for you next year?
I still like Gradey coming off the bench.
Okay.
And I'm saying that because I think it's good for him to develop into a specific role, so he's able to get that rhythm night in, night out, and kind of feeding him out to the wolves in a way is good sometimes, depending on the player. But sometimes, I mean, you need some reliability. You need someone who's kind of been there before. And like, hey, watch Gary. Watch how Gary works. Like, I mean, some people like to quibble about some of the things that Gary does, but he's a terrific shooter. He's amazing. He's always ready to go, right? And sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. That's part of the game. But how quickly he gets his shot off and how he moves without the ball, his shot readiness is excellent. And I think these are things that Gradey can learn from. And I don't like he's already made this big stride this season, and that's awesome. Let's just let him continue nurturing this path that he's on, because there is no rush. Like, he's 20 years old?
Yeah.
Let's chill.
Okay. I think for me, it comes down to if you want to be competitive next year, you know, and if that's the case, you probably want to go with the best defender of the group, because what the starting lineup really needs is not a defender. Somebody who can really lock down the perimeter. We know Quickley's not really the guy for it. RJ, he can hold his own in certain matchups, but not the guy you want to throw on opposing. You know, Scotty can do it a lot, so he's probably going to have to deal with the wings, and then Jakob's going to deal with the bigs. Someone's got to deal with the guards. So whoever the best defender of this group, and it's probably Ochai. Now, of course, if they re-sign Gary, which is another question coming up, then you're probably re-signing with the pretense that he's going to start for you, at least to start with. I mean, who knows? They also told Dennis, we're signing you to be the starting point guard, and then changed away from that, and then, you know, whatever. But, like, I mean, in any case, if Gary is retained, I think Gary. If not, then I honestly think Ochai gets a better chance at it, because that starting group really does need somebody to guard on the perimeter. Next question, this one from Sportsnet intern and also Hype Squad member, Jake. Shout out to you, Jake. Always love seeing you at the arena.
What's up, Jake?
He asked, how confident are you that Quickley will be able to make further strides as a playmaker?
I'm fairly confident, because I think, one, he desires that. I think probably when he came to the Raptors, he was so focused on showing off his passing chops that he kind of neglected what he's best at, which is his shooting, which is his gravity as a shooter, and is able to put the ball in the net, right? And I think we're slowly finding that he's getting away from that, but no different than some of the best shooters in the NBA currently. They use their shooting gravity, their shooting prowess to feed their playmaking. And I think it's going to come naturally, but in the same time, you know, the way he operates in the pick and roll, the way he snakes, the way he's able to read defenses, when he gets blitzed, that's been a topic, right? He gets blitzed. Darko's been talking about it. You know, what are the reads he's making out of that? There's some development there, but I like IQ's mentality right now. I think he desires to get better. He's mentioned that too, that he said, you know, it's been a bit of a transition for me, but I wanted this fire. I wanted this pressure, because this is how I'm going to get better. And that's a great thing for a player to say.
Yeah, he's focused. He's serious. I think you're already seeing a couple of new things he's adding to his game. One of the weird new things Quickley's adding to his game is on defense, he'll often leave his man and try to come in for a blindside steal. He's done it a couple times. He tried it last night as well. Didn't get the steal.
Yeah.
But he did get back to his man in time, so no harm, no foul on the gamble. But
that was third quarter, right? He had a good possession there.
Yeah. So I think for Quickley, like, you know, finding various ways to be effective defensively, I think that's more important to me right now than the playmaking. The playmaking will come. I think part of the system, especially the way that Darko has it right now, you know, the reads are going to be there for almost not preset for you, but in a way, like, you understand sort of where the reads are going to be. I think some of the new things for him are, like, you know, like very few players coming off the bench are getting blitzed.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be new for him. Handling it at the NBA level, I'm sure he handled it previously in college or AAU or whatever, but, like, obviously a different level when you're talking about the pros. seeing how he adjusts to that, like you mentioned, is going to be a thing. But most importantly, he's got to maintain the aggressiveness to score, and we're seeing more and more of that. Obviously, that's got to extend into the paint as well. We see sometimes he does it, sometimes he doesn't. Finding more ways to be effective there, and then just defensively too. I do feel like his on-ball defense, just like the overall strength, and like especially when you're undersized and you're small, like just finding a couple different things that you can do. Again, going back to the previous point guards we had in Toronto, Fred, heavy hands, right? Deflections, leading the league in deflections. Like, that's something he was able to do really well. Kyle taking charges. Like when you're small and you're guard, you got that one thing you need to do. Otherwise, you do become a bit of a liability defensively. So next question, no context Raptors. As we talk about wins and lessons a lot with this team. So what's the biggest thing you've learned about this team, Amit?
Well, I've already mentioned the identity thing, so I'll go somewhere else.
Okay.
I think we've learned that the value of a backup center. I'll put it that way.
Okay, interesting.
I think that's really important, especially one like Kelly Olynyk. I think I saw some people that are kind of questioning why they decided to give Kelly that contract and at the money, which is, I mean, he was making $12 million on his previous contract. He's like 13 right now over 2 years. It's not that bad. But having someone that they can run offense through has been extremely beneficial for, like, last night he had like 7 assists. And a lot of those are him just like finding players on the roll.
He's telling guys where to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm passing the ball
guidance.
and you need to go catch this pass.
It's like he's playing point guard essentially, right?
Yeah.
As a
quarterback in a weird way.
Sure.
Yeah. He's in the pocket. There's somebody guarding him, and he's just like, bing, over the top. Go get it.
Doing that to RJ a couple times. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
So, the backup center thing, and also just having 2 competent centers. We haven't had that in quite some time. Unfortunately, things went the way they went with Christian Coloco. Hope he's good, but we're seeing how it helps the team, the players, if they have that stability at that position. We saw last night, man, like if you just don't have size in the NBA, you are going to have problems. And some of the janky, funky lineups we've seen the Raptors play over the years without a center, it can work sometimes, but in a lot of cases, you need that big dog. And not that Kelly is, but I mean, at least he's 6'11".
He played better than any other Raptor last night.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And even if it's a blowout, I still recognize people who play their very best in the Raptors uniform. What did I learn about the Raptors this year? They're still better than the Hornets. That's what I learned because, they beat the Hornets when they came in.
Yeah, barely. But yeah. I'm trying to be confident too, but I'm actually not sure. Like this version of the Raptors,
this current version,
like how many teams are they actually better than? I don't know. They're banged up, right? They could be missing 2 of their most important players on defense for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm learning from the Raptors this year is that they need 2 Scotty Barneses.
How about 3?
he does more than one person's job on the team. Let's just say that much.
Yeah.
Next one from Habibi, going the other direction. Should the Raptors explore trading Jakob this summer and acquire a floor spacing big in addition to Kelly?
Who?
Okay, that's a fair question.
I think that's the thing where I would.
I don't think most teams are giving you a floor spacing center for Jakob most times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do you like that idea? Because I do feel like we've seen this here. The Raptors pretty much, it's impossible to win for this group without Jakob in the game.
Yep. So Jakob, I mean, what does he do on the court right now? He's been tremendous since the All-Star break, or at least since 2024. His blocking has been like probably the best rate he's had as a Toronto Raptor. I think it's around 3.5, which is among the best in the NBA in terms of centers, which is awesome.
Wait, he's blocking 3.5 shots a game, or is that
block percentage?
Block percentage.
Block percentage at the rim. So it's a great rate. I mean, that's like up there with some of the other best rim protectors in the league. But yeah, I mean, floor spacing, like that's the name of the game right now, man. So if you have someone that can do that for you, then it is obviously a skill that you need, but you also need rim protection too on the other end. So yeah, if we can build someone in a robot of some sort. We can find someone with Miles Turner's 3-point shooting and also, Jakob Poeltl's rim protection and instincts and passing, then hey, we got ourselves a center. But I mean, we'd have to look at some of the free agents and stuff like that. But it's hard to find that person because everyone wants to play 5 out right now.
Yeah, I think Porzingis with what his introduction has done for the Celtics.
Look what he's done.
It's probably the most ideal version of sort of the type of player you could have gotten. Ironically, Raptors could have gotten the Porzingis conversation. It wasn't like Porzingis was this untouchable player, man.
Yeah.
He got moved twice in the last few years. But in any case, like that type of role. Now, of course, that requires a lot of other things to make it work, right? I mean, Porzingis never sees a double team, for example, because of how much shooting the Celtics have, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that was a lot of the discussion, especially for the previous group when they had Pascal, when they had OG, when they had Dennis, I guess even at point guard, or even Fred at point guard, was like, well, the center that they need probably needs to space the floor so that Scottie has more room to play.
Yeah.
Now, I think a couple of things with that. Number one, especially now that they've acquired Quickley, especially because Quickley is a little more smaller, a little more slender, and not always beating, unless he's matched up against bigs, not always beating his man one-on-one. You need the physicality in the screener to actually create that space for him on the ball, right? And so I think that's something that I think both Jakob and even RJ to an extent, although RJ can really tuck the ball and then get his way to the basket anyway. But still, both of those guys really benefit from the space created at the top of the floor off of those screens so that they can then drive into the paint. They're not just natural. They're not always getting those advantages one-on-one.
Yeah.
In fact, they're rarely doing that, right? So I think there is something to be said about Jakob's particular style with more traditional center, more of a size. Having said that, though, of course, you would ideally like to play 5 out all over the place. That's why you do have the other option, which is to go with Kelly for that second unit. And honestly, I do think that there are some times where you might want to go with Scottie as almost a small ball 5 in certain moments, too. And that's why the flexibility of Kelly being able to play small ball 4 for that second unit really does help. Now, of course, they weren't defending well even before all the injuries. But nevertheless, I saw the identity and I kind of liked it. But I don't mind having this variety. And of course, Jakob, I think, has played a really important role. Yeah, because they never win when he's not in the game.
Man. I think it's a fair question, but also I think it's important to keep in mind that what he does for this team and how he elevates everyone else is really important too. Like we talk about 5 out, and that's huge, but there is a Sabonis in the world, right? Sabonis isn't a great 3-point shooter, but they make their offense is awesome. It's because of the pieces they have around them and the way they're able to penetrate, the way they're able to work off a ball. And I think that's probably a better area to try and figure out rather than looking for Jakob Poeltl to extend his range. Like, let's get the other players doing the things that we're hoping they should be able to do at the peak form of the Toronto Raptors.
With the previous group, though, man, a floor spacing 5 would have been so ideal with the previous group. But again, that's all moved on. We can't.
It would have unlocked so much, man. It would have changed. It could have changed so much about what the Toronto Raptors are right now.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, we've taken a lot of Raptors questions. Can I throw you an assorted, a show question, an NBA question?
Whatever you want,
you
bro.
pick, man. Come on. You're
I'm still trying to figure out where the NBA questions are. So
don't worry. What do you want? What do you want next?
Let's go NBA.
Let's go with the NBA question. All right.
Yeah.
This one's pretty simple from Designer Savage. Who do you? Oh, is this? Yeah. Picks to come out of the East and the West. Right now, who's your pick to win the East? Who's your pick to win the West?
Boston and Denver.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's boring. Yeah, I know it is.
You're wearing Celtic green right now. That's a no-no on this show. Man.
I knew you were going to say that.
No on this show.
Look, I wanted to look good for my first on-camera performance here.
You look sharp, but you look sharp like a Celtic.
But I knew I was going to say, I'm wearing St. Patrick's green, but you're going to say it's Celtics. I'm going to say, shut up. I got no comeback.
Is that the same thing? Is that actually not the same thing?
Leave me alone. It's close, though.
Yeah, it is close.
It is boring. Yeah, it is boring. But I mean, just like the way the Celtics are firing all cylinders right now, it's eye-opening. And if you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, like if Philly was healthy, different story. And we're going to see what Joel Embiid looks like, right? But Miami's finding a groove. If the Knicks can get healthy, I'm curious to see what they look like when they're completely healthy. But other than, I guess, like the Milwaukee Bucks, which could be some competition, and they're kind of figuring things out as well.
They're playing a lot better, man.
Yeah, man. And that's something to keep in mind. But
that was a great comeback win that they had against the Clippers over the weekend.
Huge, man. That's another problem, too. The Clippers are having some issues.
Yeah.
They got some real issues on their end, especially when they face top 10 defenses. I believe like their record is below 500 when they're facing those teams.
They just take a lot of jumpers. Which is fine.
Operate in isolation and they live and die by it. Yeah. And are they gonna be able to win like 16 games playing like that in the playoffs? It's a hard thing to say yes to considering the depth in the Western Conference. And also, I mean, the Celtics are in the East, and I think they're pretty good. This could be their year to at least get to the finals. But I mean, between those two teams, Denver and Boston, like that's a tough one. Got to think about that one.
That one is pretty tough.
What do you think?
It's more fun to back the Miami Heat to come out the East. The Miami Heat are just like, you know what? I might adopt Heat culture again. Yeah, just for fun. Honestly, are they the best team in the East? No. Are they the toughest team in the East when it comes time for playoffs? I don't know. It's coming to that time of the season where Jimmy Butler turns it on. You still got Bam Adebayo.
There's an underlying theme happening on NBA Twitter right now.
That Duncan Robinson made on the baseline?
I was not familiar with their game, sir.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows Duncan Robinson, a floor spacer, guy who can knock down threes, incredible story, undrafted. I think he played like D3 basketball or something like that,
Yeah.
like really low-level basketball in college, and he's really made his way and become his own man. And he's had ups and downs, but in the last couple of years, he's been really good. The move Duncan did was he drove along the baseline, got cut off by Sar Thompson, who's, a really, really good defender, even as a rookie, super athletic. And then Duncan faked it as he was going to go back out, but then put the ball behind his back, Jamal Crawford style. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. Faked it, and then actually continued his drive along the baseline after faking going back out, and then finished with a reverse layup. That was such a beautiful move, and no one expected that from Duncan Robinson. But yeah,
he's averaging 5 assists a game since the All-Star break.
I'm going to back the Heat. Again, until I see the Celtics definitively beat the Heat in something that isn't 7 games, that doesn't like drag them out, bloody them all over the place. Like, yeah, I'm gonna, I still go with the Heat.
There's an underlying
But I do
theme
know that the Celtics are clearly the best team in the East.
100%.
I just don't want to pick them, especially now that you're wearing Celtic green.
Shut up. You are. There's an underlying theme I'm seeing on NBA Twitter where it's like, with the Boston playing the way they are, it's like Miami, we need you. Jimmy, we need you because no one wants to see it. Nobody wants to see it. And
I don't have confidence in Milwaukee beating them.
No,
Philadelphia beating them.
They got the best coach in the NBA. That means something to me. I think Solskjaer's the best coach in the NBA.
There you go.
You got that versus whoever. I mean, you got a fighting chance.
Yeah. I also like Denver coming out the West, too.
It's hard to go against them.
Denver was playing really badly last night. The Suns were really hot, and they were up, like, huge.
Yeah.
And then they just decided to take it so seriously, push it all the way. And it's weird because they actually took the lead, and then they gave up a KD 3, and then that forced overtime. And then Denver actually just completely folded in overtime. Phoenix rolled over them. But just that ability to just like, you know what, we're down 20, we're not playing well, and then they just like forced their way back in. And when you go back and watch, so many missed opportunities for them to just like completely blow them apart.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Denver's highest level to me is just higher than other people's gears. That's all.
Yeah,
and I would back them once again. So I guess I'm saying a repeat of last year's finals, which means I guess Denver's winning because there's no way Miami's beating Denver.
Is there a team in the Western Conference that you could see beating Denver? Like we're giving all their praises, but like between the Clippers, we talked about them, Pelicans, Suns, OKC, of course.
You need a lot of size. So
yeah.
I don't know. Minnesota, I guess last year gave them some trouble with their size.
And they said that too. Bruce Brown was on a podcast and he said that that was their toughest matchup.
That's fair. I mean, they have a lot of size. You need a lot of size. I would say even the Lakers to a degree. I don't know. But there's a clear.
Not the Lakers.
I'm just saying, like teams with that kind of size to maybe bother them. Maybe the Pelicans to a slight degree. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Pelicans Nuggets this year to give a strong opinion on this, but
Zion versus Aaron Gordon. See, at least they got someone right for that kind of matchup. The Raptors didn't have that, and we see what happens. But
we gave him RJ Barrett, man. We were like, hey, this is your former college teammate. Go out there and guard him. It was like,
want this matchup, RJ?
Mismatch.
Okay, coach.
Yeah. All right, let me hit you a couple more before we go to a break.
All right.
This one for Raptors Club. Going back to Raptors question. What Raptors role player from any period in team's history would raise this team's floor the most?
You got your person?
Yeah.
Go first. I want to see if you have the
I
same
don't want to be
person.
rude about it, but Marcus All was a role player for the Raptors.
Oh, we see. This is kind of a vague question. Like, you could look at this a few different ways. Like
Why?
coming off the bench, or is it?
I just said role player. That's all.
Yeah, role player.
Starters can be role players.
Yeah.
Dude, Mark on this team.
I default to the championship team.
Sure,
and so
You can go with Serge. Serge was a role player for this team too.
He was too.
But I think I'll go with Mark.
Yeah. Just to be different, I'll say Norm Powell. They could use his shot making. Yeah, he has a lot of the talents that Darko is looking for. Cutting, getting to the rim, finishing at the rim, being able to run in transition, the pull-up shooting, role acceptance. That's another one too. I'll say Norm because I also stand him for a long time.
I was going to say, for a long time, one of your go-to sweaters was the Understand the Grind.
I still have it at home. I'll wear it tomorrow if you want.
Honestly, maybe you should. No more Celtic green on the show, right? All right, next one.
Green.
Next one from Peter. Yeah, cast the Celtics jersey on him. Peter says, admittedly, I still don't fully understand the draft pick trade stuff, but am I crazy for still wanting the Raptors to sneak into the plane and not worrying about where the draft pick conveys?
Ooh.
I think it's valid to ask the question.
Yeah.
So is it crazy that Peter still wants playing right now?
No. Because I was also on that side too. When they were healthy, I thought they should go for it. This goes back to our conversation in segment 1 that regardless of where your pick is, whether it's next year or the year after. Obviously, I mean, next year's draft class is much better, it seems like. But at the same time, I think this franchise is in a state of where are we, who are we, what are we trying to do? And I would much rather see them find that in this last stretch of the game, stretch of the season, if that meant that they were going to get into the play-in tournament and just have that experience and show that, look, we were out of the play-in race and we got in because we won games. And like, I think that's very valuable to what this team's going to be a few years down the road. But that could be just me. Like, I understand the other side of it too. But that's my outlook on it.
Well, that's fair. Here's the other side of that as well, because we're on this topic of the pick. And of course, if they had to pick, of course, you could just tank the season and you feel comfortable or whatever. But we've gone over this a lot. But the last time we go over this is Jeff Hazard, who asked, if we give San Antonio a 7th pick, which right now the Raptors most likely are going to do, that's where they're in this position right now. You understand? There's like a 65% chance for the Raptors to get that right now. So Jeff asks, if we give San Antonio a 7th pick, where would you rank the Jakob trade on the worst trades in Raptors history?
Remember the Vince Carter trade?
So nothing will ever unseat that. Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that's up there.
That will never be topped. I'm sorry. The Vince trade is the worst Raptors trade of all time.
100%.
And nothing will come close to that.
100%. I'm not saying
I get
it's
that
as
Vince
bad,
didn't help
but
himself
that's
and get the value up, whatever. But no, what they got back was not
that's
right.
kind of, we're in that sort of ballpark though. It's not as bad because I agree with you. But it's kind of there. And I mean, I'm not sure like how real, like going back to what we were saying before, I'm not sure how real those Miles Turner conversations were when they're kind of at their tipping point, it felt like. But I do wonder, I still think about it, what would this team look like if they had Miles Turner with, Fred, OG, Pascal, that core of players? Well, how different would they look? Because that's kind of what they needed. And like, damn, man, Pascal was clamoring for a stretch 5. What did he say on the podium with the Pacers? He's like, I've wanted Miles Turner for years.
Yeah. The Masai said you can have him in Indianapolis.
Hell of a ...
I'm curious to see where that Pascal trade ends up going to.
Yeah.
Y'all enjoying Bruce Brown as the return?
Crickets?
That's a long silence.
Crickets.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny because Jakob is both simultaneously so important to this group and such an effective player for this group. But also at the same time, I think it was about the direction at that time. We're going to go back and argue with this all the time. I think Masai did tell us, though, he felt like that group needed a chance. And he chose to believe in that group, and that group didn't do enough with it. And now I don't think that Masai could have acted earlier. All that stuff is what if. But I think the general idea was he still believed in that group, and it burned him. Yeah. That's all you got to sit with, really.
Believing in people and believing in skill set are two different things. I think he believed in the people, but roster construction is extremely important to winning games in the NBA. And all of them are great players, but I can't say that was the right person that they needed at the time, right? But right now, this team, they need Jakob Poeltl. Makes perfect sense. But that team, they needed someone else.
I guess the other way I've looked at it too is, now, of course, this is independent because I think part of the idea was you trade for Yak and then you would have pivoted for a rebuild back then, whatever, but right now, could you still get the same pick back for Jakob? Not from San Antonio, just in general. Could you still get a first-round pick back for Jakob Poeltl right now?
I think so.
Okay.
If anything, his value's gone up as he's been with the Raptors over the past little while. I think we're seeing like why the Raptors wanted to bring him in. All right. He's a great center.
Okay.
He is like, because
I think that was Masai's other point was like, look, if you can trade a first-round pick for a starting-level center in this prime, you would do that. That's a good trade. Now, of course, we can argue the context around the trade, but I think I don't know. I'm not. It already happened, and now we're in this position where
we're heading into a really, really interesting offseason because the Raptors have options and they love their options. And what they do, I mean, they could sit on their hands or they could start firing.
Yeah. Yesterday, I'm not going to lie to you. The Raptors left at 41 and on the subway ride home. And I'm like, you know what, man? Let me look up these random little French prospects that they might have a chance at. Because, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, I'm not trying to discredit the prospects. I was just like, this is the first time I was like, let me tune in.
Yeah.
Let me tune into the draft.
Searching trade machine right now.
We have more questions on Twitter, including this one, which I thought was spicy. And we'll leave this on a cliffhanger. Now that Nick and Pascal are both gone, can you spill the tea on the locker room altercation? That's a fun one. We'll come back to that one. But before we go, actually, I want to let you know that we're giving away some tickets All right.
Hey.
Grammy award-winning rock bands The National and The War on Drugs are touring for the first time together, coming to Budweiser stage on September 20th with special guest Lucius. It's part of their Zen Diagram tour, and we have tickets to give away. To enter, all you have to do is text this daily code word to 590-590. Today's code word is WAR, W-A-R. What is it good for? Text WAR to 590-590 right now for your chance to win. Again, the code word is WAR. Today is yeah. Well, I mean, I would love to see Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker appear on this too. Those just add to this tour. But anyway, today's the last day we're giving away tickets for this event. If you don't win with us, tickets are on sale at Ticketmaster.ca. So there you go. We're gonna give some tickets away. So we are going to take our last break of the day. I've been your host Willow. You've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, brought to you by Campbell's new Chunky Spicy Soup. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host Wim Lou. Amit Mann, co-host. How you feeling, man?
Well,
You enjoying the heat?
I'm feeling the heat a little bit after that Celtics comment that you made. But no, it's all good, man. This has been fun. Fun doing this. Cool to be here. Happy to be here. Happy to be beside you. Talented dude. Been doing it for years.
Wow, thank you. Everyone coming on just complimenting me is hilarious.
Because you're good at this, bro.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right. You know what? Thank you. I thank you to everyone for doing that. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Most
man.
importantly, though, how are you feeling, man?
I'm good. This is fun to do this. It was great to see CJ again.
It was great to see CJ.
Like legit, the day that things ended at my previous job, we were talking about our next show when it happened, and we just had to end it up or wrap it up, unfortunately. But it's nice to be back doing this. It's been a little while. I do like the odd podcast here or there when people invite me, but I feel there's a little bit of rust still. But you can get those cobwebs off pretty quickly.
No, don't worry, man.
Giddy up.
Tomorrow's show is going to be super smooth. And we're not going to be taking Twitter questions for that one, unfortunately. But we do have a lot more to answer here. So let's empty out that mailbag. As we mentioned,
Yes, sir.
this question from RJ Bargnani, which I do not appreciate RJ being lumped in there with Bargnani. Okay, change that name. RJ Bargnani is not right. Anyway, now that Nick and Pascal are both gone, can you spill the tea on the locker room altercation?
Brother, you got tea? I got no tea.
I don't really have much tea on this either. I mean, I've asked about this multiple times. And the only answer I've ever gotten was that it was verbal but not physical. But it was like, it was cutting. It was more verbal than usual.
It probably for Pascal too. It was sort of his character that you're probably going to take that on a little bit differently than someone who may have some of those reactions every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
But it was Pascal, right? Beloved one.
Listen, did I get it from Nick's side of things? No.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in any case, I've asked this question many times because I'm also endlessly curious. And there wasn't as much tea as I thought there would be. If there was, maybe people take this kind of thing to their grave. I know there's a lot of other things where people talked about, like, put hands on it. I don't think it was like that, man. I just don't. I think what happened, again, going back to the context of that one, Raptors are in Tampa, having a terrible season, miserable, all that kind of stuff, right? And then fourth quarter, Pascal wasn't playing well. They played Stanley Johnson and Patrick McCall ahead of him. Now, they made a little bit of a comeback, but then they ultimately failed and lost to a Cavs team that I think that year was like 20-some-odd wins. Like, it was Colin Sexton was leading that group, you know what I mean? And he never came back in the game. And it's like, you can try to do that if you win with some of those second unit, third unit guys, but if you don't, it's a little tough.
Yeah.
Especially, So, again, frustrations in a lost season. I wonder what stories you hear out of this one this year. Although there hasn't been as many. I'm not going to lie to you. You haven't heard as much Discord.
Nope.
People are just like, we're losing, whatever.
Yeah, it's okay. We're going to get him next season. Right? It's all kumbaya here. It's okay to lose.
They go 1, 2, 3 wins and losses. Or wins and lessons. All right. That's one from Lazy Dunker.
Yeah.
Nice name. I like that one. Better than RJ Mark Bargnani for sure. Do you think the next future All-Star, not Scotty, on the Raptors is more likely to be on the current roster or a player that we acquire in the future by draft/trade?
Lazy Dunker. That's no lazy question. That's a good one.
So obviously Scotty is the main star. Who is the second star to join Scotty? And are they already on the roster?
My gut says they're not. However, if it's going to be someone, I think probably IQ has a path to it.
So IQ has a second highest upside.
Yeah. But I mean, we're in the Eastern Conference, man. Like, it's really, really, really hard to be an all-star.
Look at the guards who were in the all-star game. And again, Trae Young averaged 27 and 11 and didn't make it until a replacement.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, honestly, it's even harder to make it out west.
Yeah.
At least you're in the easier conference, but the quote-unquote easier conference is like, is he going to beat up Maxey? Is he going to beat out Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, man. Like,
Beat out Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard.
yeah, I'm looking at it from a talent perspective. However, I mean, I think it's really hard to see anyone becoming an all-star in the near future on this current roster outside of Scottie, because that's how special you got to be. Like, we just talked to CJ about the level of talent that we're seeing in the NBA now, how it's different than we've ever seen before. So within that, it's going to be hard to be an all-star. You got to be like extremely, extremely special. And the guys that are selected, they're all special. Scottie is special as well. Not to say that RJ and IQ are not, but you're going to need some sort of star in that realm for them to be on that stage, right?
You know what? If I'm going to back one person for this,
Say RJ.
on the team, I think I might go with RJ. Number one, I think the forward positions is a little bit easier to make all-star in. And I think like there's like 3 or 4 things that RJ can do attainably that can get him to a higher level. Number one being free throws. I can't believe how many times he's missing the free throws.
Bizarre, bro. It's very bizarre.
But I think he's already got a really good basis for it. He's already really consistent with the scoring. He puts up numbers that I think that, you know, gets you into that all-star conversation, or he's not that far out of. And again, I wouldn't say that was like more likely than not he's going to make all-star, but in terms of guys on the team, I mean, if they acquire another one, of course, that'd be ideal as well. But yeah, at least on the team, I think RJ actually might be the closest one. And
I hear that.
Not that close right now, but again, I'm answering a question that was asked to me.
Yeah.
So, JC, next one from the Raptors.
What up?
JC asks, the Raptors have chosen a lane, and that's provided a lot of clarity and losses. I see a plan moving forward for everyone except for Gary. What do we do with him? So, Amit, what are you doing with Gary?
I guess I got to answer this question because you don't want to damage your relationship with Gary Trent Sr.
I would never do that, man. That's Gary and all 4 of his Gary sons.
Yeah.
Including one
Garrison.
literally named Gary's son.
Yeah. In my family, all the kids on one side of the family, they're all named Blair. I'm not even kidding. Now, they have other names that they actually use, but like on their birth certificate, their first name is Blair, which is the name of their father. So everyone's name is like Blair, Matthew in a case, and then it's their last name. But it, could very well be like a case where someone says, hey, this is my name Blair, and this is my son Blair, my other son Blair, and the other person Blair, because technically their first name is Blair, but they go by another name.
Okay. All right. Fun fact.
Very fun fact.
Yeah.
Very, very fun fact.
All right, cool.
Anyway, back to the question.
Yeah.
Gary Trent Jr. I could see them potentially moving on, but it's like either he's a starter or they're going to move on, and they got to decide how they value him. I think his skill set, as Bobby had mentioned, in some availability, a 25-year-old who shoots 40% from 3, pretty good, pretty rare skill set. But I think as we talk about roster construction and how Jakob Poeltl didn't exactly fit with the other team, the previous core, they got to decide if Gary is the person that they need at shooting guard. Or, I mean, I'm spitballing here, but like, what if RJ is your shooting guard? And what if Scottie is your 4? And what if you're finding someone else to be your 3-and-D type of player, so Scottie doesn't have to take on those reps? And also you just have a person who's dedicated to taking on some of the wings in the NBA. That's another thing I've thought about, too.
So you're trying to re-sign OG?
Oche?
OG.
Oh, yeah.
You're describing OG, I know.
I know I am. It doesn't have to be that level, but like a Royce O'Neal, right? Like, it could be a player like that.
No, Royce, I mean, first off, I don't think veterans are going to be clamoring to come to this situation when they're not competitive. But I think the second thing, too, is just like, I don't see him as that type of player. But I do understand what you're saying. Getting in the 3-and-D type, I'm not in that fifth starter role. So either Ochai grows into it in the last 20 games, or you re-sign Gary and kind of roll this idea over. Maybe Gary can grow into it a little bit, but we all know that that we're kind of like hopeful for that rather than expecting it. Or you go out and get somebody else. But yeah, I mean, the starting group is a little bit small now, but we just moved from Vision 6-9. So I know Masai is listening to this being like, what do you want, man? You ride around on a scooter and demand me to change the team every 5 games. And honestly, Masai, that's true. So I hope you're enjoying your scouting trips because, management not in the building these days. They're scouting. It's scouting era time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's still listening, though.
I doubt it. Okay. But shouts to them if they are.
Do you like Oche, though? Like, do you like what he could? I mean, have you seen
I don't know enough about him, so I just need to see more of it, right? So this is a big chance here to come in and win the opportunity, and hopefully he's healthy too, because he also left yesterday's game. My God, How bad could yesterday's game be?
Yeah, we had a lot of health luck earlier in the season, but it's kind of going away now.
I'm going to pivot off to a slightly non-basketball question or a somewhat basketball question. This one from Sophia. Shouts to Sophia. Somewhat basketball question. Do you ever get fatigued following the Raptors /basketball 24/7? I know it's your job, but do you ever feel the need to pull away and reset? If yes, then how do you do that?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I think you're
the self-care
better off.
question.
You're better off answering that one.
We live the same life, man.
Yeah, I used to, but not anymore. I used to. That was what I was doing for a little while. But I think, especially for you, because you've gone through so many waves of this franchise, the ups, the downs, and so forth.
You're talking to me like I'm Doug Smith, man. Hold on. I'm not a vet in this game like that.
Think about it, though. Since 2019 or since 2018 or 2019 championship, how many waves have we seen of this franchise? Tampa championship, Vision 6-9, Vision 6-9 not working, retooling, rebuilding. Like that's like 5 different phases in like 5 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why you get this like variance in sort of opinion and experiences, because people come into it with different baggages. And it depends on when you sort of checked in the first place. You know what I mean? And I think that do I get tired? I mean, honestly, not really. Like, I'm pretty obsessive about this thing, and it's like it's a hobby for me regardless.
Yeah.
But do I have the need to reset from basketball? Not really. I think what I just end up doing is like rediscovering my love for it by playing a basketball or by watching other teams. You know what I mean? So I need to reset away from
Denver
the
Nuggets,
Raptors
exactly.
like losing by 41 at home sometimes. But I think, just go home like I did last night and I watched Nuggets versus Suns, and it was very fun. You know, or, you know, if a regular Tuesday night when the Raptors aren't playing, I'm going to go hoop. Or if the weather's nice enough, I'll go outside and just shoot.
Yeah.
So there's always other ways to sort of re-engage, for me at least, my love for the game. But I get the question, though. I totally understand.
Yeah.
You know, if you listen to the React Pod enough, you're like, is Will okay? And that's my question as well, which is why I got therapy at 4:30. All right, next one from Jonathan.
Just one more thing. One more thing. Justin.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Slip that in there right there.
No. Seriously, go ahead.
Justin Holiday, after the previous game, he had said that he's now with the Nuggets, right?
Yeah.
He said, it kind of makes me believe in the NBA again. That's what the transaction moving to the Nuggets has done for him. He actually said that. Right?
I love that.
It's invigorated him in a way. Like you go through so many years.
Where did you play before this, man? Indiana? Like
he's gone through a lot of losing in his life.
Justin Holiday.
Yeah. But I understand that too. Like you love something so
Dallas,
much, but sometimes
Atlanta.
you want it to be reciprocated. You want the love to be reciprocated in anything you do, right? You go through so many years of things not going your way. You need something to elevate you again.
I got you.
It's cool that he's gotten that, and actually he's kind of an interesting piece for them in the playoffs because they could use some more depth.
For sure. Yeah, I just love it, man. Yeah, if you find yourself a little bit down on basketball, just watch some Nikola Jokic.
It always
I think that's
everything.
what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. All right, we got to go a little quicker now. Jonathan Assad Muse. It's so funny. It's an actual account name. Why did the Raptors give up on Precious so early?
I don't think they gave up on Precious.
I think, you know what, a little bit. Like, they wanted to extend Precious and talk contract extension off the rookie scale, and I don't think they were close, and then they moved him.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the Knicks actually moving on from Quickley.
Yeah.
But I always liked Precious as a prospect. That's why it was so frustrating sometimes when he didn't play to that level. But I also think that the Raptors moving and playing this style definitely does not fit Precious' skill set, versus when you play a more isolation type of game, you would really love Precious for his rebounding and his hustle and his defense.
That's kind of what I'm getting at too, is that we keep on talking about it, but like they're finding certain players to fit Darko's system. This is like him getting a chance to kind of orchestrate the roster that he really wants, and he's going to live and die by it. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be on his head. But Precious, the prospect, I still remember that pull-up or that pull-up three hit against the 76ers in that game late in the season before the series against the 76ers. I still remember that stretch he had. It was incredible. And I still think that player is still there. Yeah, man. Yeah. That player is still there. And if he can harness it, if he can find it, I hope he does, because that person is a very valuable player in the NBA. A stretch five who can play 3, 4, hit threes, drive to the basket. Like, that's a skill that is pretty rare, all things considered.
As Masai once said, finally, you're mine. Yeah, I love it, man. Masai turned into Gollum when he saw Precious. It's Precious. Assad, my actual friend Assad, not Jonathan Assad. Okay, this is different.
Love Assad, man.
This is Assad. Acid 81, as I know you're listening and you're getting a kick out of that. Yes, in Tampa, the Raptors had a ton of random 30-point scorers. How many this season, and who are your best bets to get there? So for reference, the Raptors haven't been down this bad since a couple years ago when they were in Tampa.
Yeah.
They had some 30-point scorers in there. They had guys who really popped off. Jalen Harris had some really big moments. Malachi Flynn was having huge double-doubles.
Yeah.
Gary had a 44-point game. Stole his career high. Paul Watson had some 20-point games, which I think is probably, let's just round up. Even Utah had some 20-point games. Let's round up. So, yeah, I mean, out of these guys that we saw last night, I mean, you see a 30-pointer in there somewhere?
If Javon Freeman-Liberty gets the minutes, he will get there at some point. I think he'll get there. If we're talking like a game that where we're just like straight up, the third rotation is getting a lot of minutes, I could see him getting there because he's that talented. After that, I mean, is Gradey Dick random? Probably not, right?
It'd be a little random to see Gradey get 30. For me, at least, because I don't think his skill set right now, because he's not getting his own shot in that same way, it's a little harder to get 30. But
you can actually get it like in the flow of the offense.
30 catches, like 10 catches, he's making 10 catch and shoot threes.
And a few layups.
I guess if they're playing against the Raptors.
Get a nice
and you're Trey Murphy the third.
Oh, jeez, man.
Yeah.
Trey was amazing yesterday. Remember when the OG rumors were happening last season, and that was the name that all Raptor fans wanted? I wanted Trey Murphy, too.
Everyone wanted him.
And Pelicans were like, nope. Well, we're seeing why. Outside of that, I mean, I guess Jordan Nwora, right?
That's a great pick. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Jordan Nwora as well.
Yeah.
Another one, this is somewhat basketball from L Train. Adam Silver says you have to reverse one of the trades from this season. Which one would you do? And
Only
I think
the season?
I have one. No, I'm not talking about the Jakob thing, man. That's so lame.
Yeah.
I'm reversing the Kristaps trade.
Oh.
No, there's no way. It's not fair for the Celtics to have that.
Yeah.
What did they give up for that? Like, it was like Marcus Smart, and I think they might have even were like pick positive in that, as in they might have received picks. No, they shouldn't have Kristaps Porzingis. I'm reversing that trade. You used to have Marcus Smart on your team, instead of Kristaps Porzingis.
The Drew Holiday trade really bothered me.
The Drew Holiday trade, yeah, okay, fine. You can reverse that too. But
it's just because we're talking the same thing. It's like it's an embarrassment of riches. Right,
sure,
you traded Marcus Smart and then you gained just Drew Holiday. That's ridiculous. You didn't lose much, really. Yeah. And then I mean, that's why we're saying that they're maybe the favorite out of the East, is that they're that good.
Fair enough. I got two more for you. This one from Adcon writer. What's a better scene, Snoop buying the nail gun or Bodie buying the funeral flowers? Did you watch The Wire?
I did. Yes.
Okay, so these two iconic scenes.
Yeah.
Snoop buying the nail gun to begin season 4.
Yep.
And Bodie buying funeral flowers in season 2. Which one is
it's Snoop.
Most iconic?
It's Snoop.
It's pretty great, that one.
Oh man.
Yeah. The Home Depot employee view, like so detailed in explaining the powdered activated gun and everything like that.
Yeah,
and then what it became used for is actually kind of terrifying. It was actually really good villain writing.
100%.
By the Wire
And
staff.
she wasn't a trained actor either.
No, but that's what made it feel so real.
Yeah, it was seriously like that's the beauty of it, is that you're seeing someone kind of
applicable.
Yeah, I mean,
Seems
it was
a little
very
autobiographical. Seems like someone actually did go to Home Depot for that express purpose. But yeah, obviously, great scenes. Great question,
man. That's the scene.
And then the last question here. This is also from Designer Savage. Who will be your summer co-host while Blake covers the Jays? It's a question that we all have right now. What are we going to do Raptors coverage when the Jays coming back around? But I know what Blake will be doing, and he'll be doing both. Blake, when you come back, buddy, and you'll be back next week, get ready to do both.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Amit, appreciate you. All right. This is one in the books. We got another one tomorrow. We got a lot of great guests tomorrow as well.
Yeah, man.
Mark Stein had to cancel on us today because he's literally watching Champions League. That's how much of a true hoop head he is. And so we'll talk to him tomorrow. We got other guests tomorrow, but that does it for us today. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, brought to you by Campbell's new Chunky Spicy Soup. It's time to get fired up. Big thanks to our producer, Amit Mann. You're right here, buddy. You also wear both.
Yeah.
You also do both. Our board producer, Derek Rendale, who was unfortunately away sick today. So shouts to Tristan for holding it down. Jennifer Rolnick, Davis says, Jared Manatad, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.